Hey, what is up guys, and welcome back once again to another Fallout 4 settlement build. Today we're back inside of our raider settlement, and we're going to be checking out the new slave pen. Now, after doing plenty of builds thus far, I've come to the conclusion that they do tend to turn out quite a bit better if I give them some kind of a backstory or overall theme. So this time around, I've gone ahead and based it off of Paradise Falls from Fallout 3. Now that's a pretty general statement to make, so I'll try and explain it in further detail later on as we explore the build. But for now, I'll just say that hopefully you guys end up enjoying it, and without further ado, let's go ahead and take a closer look. For starters, we'll go ahead and begin by taking a look at the front. As you can see, the name of the slave pen is Slice of Paradise. Once again, that's just to go along with the Paradise Falls theme. I'm not really sure who owns this build. Based on my first playthrough in Fallout 3, I think eventually I ended up killing everyone in Paradise Falls. So that would lead to a bit of a dead end in this case. But you never know, maybe we can just pretend that somehow Eulogy Jones managed to survive and make his way here, all while still continuing his slaver business. I was also sort of thinking that maybe someone here just has connections to Paradise Falls, and I guess that kind of goes in line with the sign over to the left-hand side. But really quick before we head that way, I do want to make it clear that this build still has a long ways to go. The portion we're going to be checking out today is definitely finished, but I do have some fairly big plans for this building and also the area in the back. And you can get there either by heading down this alleyway or just by passing through this build if you don't mind going through the slave cages. Could be a bit dangerous depending on who you are, but that is always an option. Anyways, this sign here just says fresh slaves all the way from Paradise Falls. Caps only. And that, of course, is if you're looking to buy some. There's also a guard on the way, along with a fair bit of supplies, possibly to feed them, or there could even be weaponry inside those barrels. But as you can see, you do get a very small peek at what's inside. And off to the other side, you can see I've laid down some basic plans for possibly an area where an auction could be held, hence the little podium there. And overall, I do want to kind of turn this area into a place that gladiators might have trained at. For the life of me, I can't remember what those were called, but that way I figured the slaves could have some kind of a use other than just doing dirty work and then eventually being sold to someone else. And maybe this way they could eventually win their freedom in some kind of an arena, which I wouldn't mind placing somewhere over here. So say they would train in this area, and eventually we'll have a big giant gate. Then they can pass through there, enter the arena, fight whatever the hell comes out of the subway system or metro tunnels. And then all of the normal raiders in this city could watch from this big building that also isn't yet finished, though I will say it does have a decent foundation. And not to mention the two buildings there on the top, or two floors I should say, are both a brothel and some kind of a music bar. And I gotta say, at least in my opinion, those are decent venues to eventually add some more balconies to. Especially since I'm sure the customers who end up going there are the same type of people who wouldn't mind watching some more blood get spilled. With all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get a better look at the inside, since that is where the bulk of the detail is. And as you can see, I have gone for a pretty open look for this initial area. And any customers looking to buy could follow the sign over to the left, get in line, maybe sit down if the chairs weren't full already while they wait for the current deal to finish up. And so most business is conducted right here at this desk. And like I said, maybe old Eulogy Jones somehow survived, since for all I remember, maybe I only shot him in the leg. And that's why now the only way he can move around is in a wheelchair, even though it has been many, many years. But anyways, in this area we have some details on the desk, such as a contract that's in the works, a few caps lying out, and the terminal, which you could imagine notes of certain sales would be kept on, just so that the owner of this place could keep tabs on everyone, or just keep track of how much revenue he's bringing in. If you've ever been to Paradise Falls from Fallout 3, I'm sure you know by now that Eulogy tends to keep a lot of guards around him, or a lot of other slavers, so I've tried to include some area for them as well. So that's why we have a little guard station out front, and also just some room for them to relax if need be. And since I did end up killing both of Eulogy's favorite girls, I figured this would be a nice thing to throw down, since maybe it might remind him of them. And then there's also the safe over to the right hand side, and you may be asking yourself, why isn't this somewhere safe? And my main reason for that is just that I thought it would be easier for him to access out here, and plus, it's a pretty hefty safe. So honestly, if you didn't know the combination, there's a very rare chance you're getting in there. And not to mention, he's probably got a few guards watching it as well. Moving on, we have another lounge area for either Eulogy himself or any of the other slavers to just kind of kick back and relax at. And that's why I've also thrown down some lockers so they could store weapons and armor inside there. And over here, I thought this was a pretty cool detail. It's just one of those pads with lots of receipts stapled onto it, obviously for the slaves in this case. And I gotta say, if it wasn't for the Nuka-World DLC, I'm not sure I ever would have tried a build like this, just because slaves were never a huge deal in the Boston area. In fact, throughout my entire time in the original storyline of Fallout 4, I don't think I saw a single one, but they do have a huge part in Nuka-World, and thankfully there was also the addition of slave collars, which, if you played Fallout 3, I'm sure you've seen plenty of times. So I've tried throwing down a few of those. But next up, this is the main area where the slaves themselves would stay. And like I said earlier, there's room for plenty of them. And we'll go ahead and check out the inside of the cages in just a moment. But for now, I wanted to show you the area over to the right-hand side first. In the very back, we do have some sleeping arrangements for any guards. And I've tried to decorate this area up just a tad, so you can see there's a naughty magazine that they may use from time to time, along with more storage for any gear they may have brought along with them. And overall, it does allow them to keep a good eye on any slaves that might be misbehaving in their eyes. But perhaps my favorite detail in here is this little table and the two chairs. Seems simple at first, but I thought this would be a really nice area for Eulogy and any of the more wealthy patrons to just sit down and have a more professional talk. So that's why Eulogy's got out the drinks and the cigars, so he can kind of work his magic on these guys as he tries to make some caps. And I figured this would be a really nice place to put something like this, because it has quite a bit of privacy from the outside town square area. And other than that, it also has a really good view of the merchandise. But anyways, moving on to the cells. This is where the slaves would sleep. There aren't a whole lot of beds or mattresses in here, but that's for good reason. Obviously, Eulogy's not a very nice guy, so I'm sure he doesn't really give two shits about how comfortable they are. Though, just for the sake of filling this place up, I have tried to include a few other places for them to sit, like the busted toilet seat and the makeshift bench off to the right-hand side. But yeah, guys, I'd say that'll just about do it for today. Hopefully sometime in the near future we'll get around to decorating up the back, and maybe eventually get around to building the arena as well. I imagine that one should be a fairly fun one to try out. That being said, hopefully you guys did enjoy the build. Feel free to let me know your thoughts down in the comments. And as always, I will see you in the next one.